Peace be upon you. In the previous video, we talked about the 45th President of the United States of America, and in this video we will talk about the 46th President of the United States of America. But before we start, do not forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so that you receive all new. 1. About Joe Biden. He is an American politician and lawyer. He previously served as Vice President of the United States, Barack Obama, after completing his long career in the Senate as a senator, and is a member of the American Democratic Party. Joe Biden is an American politician and lawyer, and a prominent member of the American Democratic Party. He held prominent positions during his career, most notably, the 44th Vice President of the United States, Barack Obama, and the 6th youngest elected senator in the history of the United States. He was also re-elected to the Senate, as a senator, 6 times afterwards. In addition to chairing the Foreign Relations Committee in the past, Biden nominated himself for the presidency of the United States for the 3rd time in the elections scheduled for late November 2020, and is one of the strongest contenders for the presidency against the current President Donald Trump, who also nominated himself for a new presidential term. 2. The beginnings of Joe Biden. Joseph Biden, Jr., better known as Joe Biden, was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania, in the United States of America on November 20, 1942, to Joseph Biden and his mother, Catherine Eugenia, the eldest of 4 children. When he was 10, his family moved to Claymont, Delaware, where he graduated in 1961 from Archimedes Academy, earned a double degree in history and political science from Newark University, and then enrolled at Syracuse Law School on a midterm scholarship as a quarterback. He is an American football player, graduated with a law degree in 1968, and joined the judiciary in 1969. 3. Joe Biden's achievements. Joe Biden worked as a trainee attorney in Wilmington, Delaware, then was elected to be the Newcastle County Council consul from 1970 to 1972, where he decided to run for the U.S. Senate because of the matched opportunity for Biden as a result of the resignation of James Boggs, the Republican candidate to win. So Biden won the election despite the re-nomination. He briefed himself at the invitation of the then U.S. President, Richard Nixon, and his election campaign focused on environmental protection, addressing issues of immigration, health insurance, civil rights, withdrawal from Vietnam, and other issues that made him closer and more able to communicate with voters. He took office and his title as a senator in 1973 when he was 30 years old, and thus the 6th youngest senator in U.S. history, and the longest-standing one in the House by being re-elected 6 times in a row, defeating James Baxter in 1987, John Boris in 1984, and Jane Brady in 1990, Raymond Clatworthy in 1996, with a majority of 60% of the vote in 2000, and then he was re-elected for the last time in 2008, when he was the 4th oldest member of the council. During all of his terms as a senator, Joe Biden was chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and for his political views and views on the issues raised during this period he is generally considered a moderate liberal, which included his opposition to the 1991 Gulf War, but he called on his country and NATO to intervene in the Bosnia-Herzegovina War of 1994-95, supported the bombing of Serbia in 1999 during the Kosovo War. His vote of approval in favor of the resolution that authorized a war on Iraq in 2002, considering the then Iraqi president, Saddam Hussein, a threat that must be eliminated by any means, but he opposed sending more troops to Iraq in 2007, as it was a wrong decision at the time, and supported the idea of dividing Iraq into 3 regions that rely on a sectarian reference, but he failed to gain acceptance on them. He also voted for the 2001 invasion of Afghanistan. His support for the diplomatic option with the use of sanctions if necessary, regarding the relationship of the United States with Iran, opposing the designation of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards as a terrorist organization, and also supporting the granting of visas to visiting workers with regard to immigration, but supports the idea of building a separation wall between the states and Mexico. His support for the idea of dividing Palestine into two states for Jews and Palestinians, and he is known for his strong support for Israel. His call to protect the environment, denouncing the danger of climate change, opposed drilling for oil in Alaska reserves, preferring to search for alternative energy sources. Appointed by Congress as one of the 12 people who made a difference in American foreign policy, in addition to taking several assignments on the Judiciary Committee that he once chaired, during which he participated in the drafting of many federal crime laws, including focusing on arms control issues, violent crime control and procedures implementation of the 1994 law known as the Biden Crime Act. The most prominent law is the Historic Violence Against Women Act, also issued in 1994, which includes many measures to reduce domestic violence, providing billions of dollars in federal funds to find and solve gender-based crimes, as well as the Children 2000 legislation that guarantees computer security, and the teacher, the internet, remedial courses and other things that may be needed by school students in the public, private and joint sectors. During his tenure in the Senate, he taught constitutional law at Widener University Delaware College of Law beginning in 1991, doing a lot for the state while serving as a senator. He also supported the two military bases of DVR and Newcastle, and other projects for which he allocated millions of dollars, in addition to the fundraising campaigns that he carried out, and is considered the most fundraising senator in the history of the state. Joe Biden ran himself earlier in the same year for the presidential elections in an effort to become the youngest president of the United States since John F. Kennedy, but he was exposed to a health condition that halted his campaign trail. He resumed his work in Congress 7 months after his brain injury until his resignation in 2009. When he was appointed Vice President of the United States at the time, Barack Obama, becoming the second most powerful figure in the United States after the President. Biden began his new role as the 44th Vice President of the United States. Barack Obama, after he ran against him in the 2008 presidential election, but he withdrew due to his high-profile rivals Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, his failure to mobilize voters and a few hurtful comments he made campaign, and the media focused mainly on Alaskan candidate Sarah Palin. Followed by his secret meeting with Barack Obama after his election as president, with the latter's desire for Biden to serve as his vice president, despite the poor relations between them during their work together on the Foreign Policy Committee in Congress. So Biden was elected vice president to be the only senator in Delaware history to hold this position. He was appointed shortly after the election as President-elect Obama's transition team leader, then chose his aide Ron Klein to be his chief of staff, and participated in all the cabinet appointments made in the transitional period, and then resigned from Congress after he had been elected to a new term in 2008. And made a trip to Iraq and Afghanistan as his last assignment on the Foreign Policy Committee. After spending 35 years in the Senate, he bid farewell to the Senate with an influential speech. Biden has taken on the role of an important advisor behind the scenes, including separating disputes with Obama's rivals, and obtaining Senate support in several Obama legislation, including the stimulus package that effectively countered the ongoing recession and created numerous job opportunities, the Patient Protection Act and Medicare, among others. His views achieved great importance in the White House, which made everyone inside him reconsider his strategies, and he gained great confidence despite the slips of the tongue and the reckless statements he sometimes made. He led successful efforts to obtain congressional approval of the New START Treaty, which provides for the reduction of nuclear armaments between Russia and America starting in 2010. Externally, he represented the United States in many important events globally, supporting the creation of new economic relations, especially with Russia. He also called for NATO-led military intervention in Libya in 2011. During that period, He opposed the implementation of the military operation that resulted in the killing of Osama bin Laden for fear of the repercussions of its failure. He was elected to a second term as Vice President of the United States according to the ticket, Obama-Biden, in November 2012, beating the ticket, Romney, Ryan, preceded by his intention to run for the main elections, but he retracted it in favor of Obama, who appointed him head of the Organization Against Violence, which it was established to address the phenomenon of armed violence escalating in the country. He passed the U.S. Taxpayer Relief Act of 2012 to prevent the country from falling into a fiscal cliff in a deal with McConnell, raising incomes and making many tax cuts permanent, but failed to pass armament reduction legislation and was impeached during congressional debates on the 2013 debt ceiling crisis. The Continuing Appropriations Act of 2014. Biden's Violence Against Women Act was reauthorized in 2013 and included several developments, and he gave a speech on sexual assault awareness at the 88th Academy Awards with Lady Gaga. He also during his second term as vice president prepared for the 2016 presidential campaign, where he could be the largest president in the history of the inauguration. In exchange for the decline in the popularity of Hillary Clinton, he seemed to decline later, and announce his support for Clinton, who was facing Donald Trump in the elections that the latter won, and with it ended the term of Biden, who is the most prominent opponent of Trump's policies. In the final days of Obama's term, in 2017, he received the country's highest civilian honor, the Medal of Freedom, which Obama awarded him during a ceremony at the White House, after which he worked as a professor at the University of Pennsylvania. In mid-2019, he announced his candidacy for the U.S. presidential elections scheduled for November 2020 for the Democratic Party against Trump, who considers him the worst U.S. president in contemporary history, and despite Biden's late joining the presidential race, he is considered one of the strongest candidates. 4. The most famous sayings of Joe Biden. One of the things I was never accused of was my lack of interest in people's conditions. Failure at some point in your life is unavoidable, but giving up is unforgivable. I can die a happy man without becoming president of the United States, but that won't stop me from running for president. 5. Joe Biden's personal life. Biden's first marriage was to Nellie Hunter, and they had 2 sons and a single girl, barely 2 years old, until she died with her mother in a painful car accident while they went shopping with her 2 brothers, who survived the accident with accidental injuries. Joe Biden married again Jill Jacobs in 1977, and they have 1 daughter. 6. Fast facts on Joe Biden. He suffered in 1988, after the launch of his presidential campaign for the same year, from a cerebral aneurysm injury on the right and left sides, which required 2 very dangerous operations, after which he recovered without any complications, and returned to his work in Congress after 7 months and abandoned his presidential campaign at the time. Although he passed the historical law on violence against women and then developed it in 2013, he faces accusations of having made inappropriate physical contact movements on several occasions caught on cameras, which he rejects as his intentions are honorable, misunderstood and completely far from him. Joe Biden is considered a middle-class materialistic, which raised questions about his ability to campaign for middle income, so he established an association through which a donation to his campaign was made, through which he achieved a fortune ranging from $1 to $1.8 million. He was known to take the Amtrak train every day for 90 minutes between Wilmington and the Capitol, hosting barbecues and more for the crew of the train company that honored him for making more than 7,000 trips on its trains that waited a few minutes in case he was late. Biden's arrival. 7. You will find videos and documentaries about Joe Biden and the sources of information that I mentioned to you in the end. We hope that you liked the video and do not forget to subscribe to the channel until everything new arrives, and bye bye.
What you know about rolling down in the deep? When your brain goes numb, you can call that mental freeze. When these people talk too much, put that shit in slow motion. Yeah, I feel like an astronaut in the ocean. Ay, what you know about